Hello out there, this is John Franklin Reviewer, and I actually have another speech I like to bring up. We have Grandparents' Day, and I really don't know a whole lot about my grandfather or grandfathers, but I do want to actually talk about two grandmothers, my grandmother and my great-grandmother. This is a possibility that I'm going to end up having this in two parts. So talk about my great-grandmother first in part one, and then in part two will be my grandmother. So starting with my great-grandmother was actually born in 1913. So I'm going to actually talk about when she was already retired, around the time I was born, that kind of stuff. That's stuff I really do remember about her. Well, my great-grandmother, I don't want to give names or anything, so I'm going to kind of just go with, great-grandmother or grandmother when part two rolls around. My great-grandmother was such a wonderful woman, and I know that's cliche to say. Everybody always will say that they have, a favorite grandparent, if it's grandmother, grandfather, a favorite uncle, aunt, cousin. Can't really say favorite mom or dad unless for some reason more than one kind of rolls around on that, and really with my family it's not really ever happened. So, but again, I'm trying to focus on my great-grandmother and nobody else on this one. So my great-grandmother, I mentioned about when she was born. She did pass away back in 2002, just to kind of get that out of the way. I hate to really talk about someone's death or anything. And again, being cliche, the funeral was really nice, was very beautiful. She was 89 years old when she passed away. And what actually made me laugh was that she passed away exactly 2 months after her birthday. Her birthday was at the beginning of June, and she passed away at the beginning of August. And like I said, the funeral was really nice. It was really, you really can't say fun, but for whatever reason with our family, and hopefully a lot of families are like this, you really get a chance to see family you haven't seen in a long time really coming together on this one particular person who was so special to the family. Which, I will be honest, I knew my great-grandmother when she passed away. I was 21 years old, and in that 21 years I learned a lot from her. Many different things I learned from her. One thing I want to mention is that my great-grandmother, I don't really know much about her job history, except that she did work at a movie theater. That popped in. So of course, people out here who actually do watch me know I'm a movie lover, do the best I can with it, and continue doing the best I can with it. My great-grandmother, and even back in like the 50s when she would be doing this, that she would always have to be the one. She'd be an usher, and she'd be the one that would actually be taking the bubble gum off of people's seats, that put it there during the film. Now back in the old days, it used to be a bunch of cartoons, maybe even a few commercials. That they do a lot of commercials now at movies, which I think is ridiculous. And then they would actually sometimes maybe even show more than one movie. My great-grandmother, she actually was such an awesome cook, I have to be honest. And my favorite dish, when she made this, felt like I was always the first one at the table, ready to go, fork in one hand, knife in another. Where really with meatloaf, unless it was really tough real tough to cut through the fork, which she always made it so perfectly. It was a great meatloaf. It was just very tough for anybody else in the family, friends, or anything like that. It was really tough for anybody to actually mimic her kind of recipe there. And that's the thing that's kind of different about, in the old days or anything. I mean, my grandmother, she was Polish. I don't think she was 100% Polish, but I know that's what she mostly was, percentage-wise. She was Polish, and the funniest thing was we never really made Polish, meals really for whatever reason. We would make, whatever was around, whatever we actually had. And there'd be some stuff like maybe Polish sausage. We would do like ham and sauerkraut like around Christmas time. which was, I was never really a big fan of sauerkraut, but I would have ham. Kibasi is another thing that we would do. Actually, sauerkraut, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. That's actually German, so I made a mistake about that one. I apologize. For anybody out there who actually was paying attention, she was a huge fan of Jay Leno whenever he was around. For anybody out there who knows who Jay Leno was, he was actually on The Tonight Show. He actually took over for Johnny Carson, I think, back in, I don't know if it was the early or mid 90s, but he was actually on for probably close to 20 some years. My grandmother, like I said, she loved her soap operas like a lot of people. She loved the news, like a lot of older people love the news and all that. And just actually sitting there and watching the news with her, and even just listening to her talk about whatever, about when she was younger, about the family and stuff. Sometimes it was good things, sometimes it was bad things, and I won't really go into it, but my great-grandmother was just so fascinating. The thing was, whenever my mother, because my mother actually did work a lot, I felt like I was more raised by both of my grandmothers here. This is going to come to a surprise to a lot of people. It even surprises me. But one of my great-grandmother's favorite movies came out back in 1993 was Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes. That was kind of a surprise because there was some brief nudity in there. There was some language like, the F word here and there too. But it actually really surprised me how much that she actually enjoyed that film. I think the biggest thing she liked was Wesley Snipes, his hairdo, for whatever reason, just always made her laugh on that, My great-grandmother had 5 children. 4 girls, which one of them was my grandmother, and 3 aunts, and 1 boy, which was my uncle, duh. And the thing is that they have always been supportive. They've been great families. They've been great. My grandmother's been really good to me. Like my great grandmother always loved me. My grandmother, just like a lot of women, have that look that always can scare a man. No matter if it's a husband, a boyfriend. I don't know. Sometimes these boyfriends, I'm a badass or whatever. Maybe a sister does the look to her brother and scares them half to death. My great-grandmother had this, this evil look that just freaked everybody out, and it was amazing how that went through. And I gotta say that just because of that look, I felt like that made me be a better man as I am right now. To a point, I felt like. My grandmother, like a lot of older people, will tell the truth, might sometimes say something they shouldn't say. And it was towards the end of my Gram's life, she really didn't know much about, her family. She kind of remembered some stuff, but it was very little. So she had dementia. And she was in the hospital. Then she actually was in a home for a little bit. And then she actually got moved to one of her daughters and son-in-law's house. And I guess it got a little too much for them on that. And then I believe that they ended up taking her back to the hospital. And that's where she passed away. And she was in a coma. So the thing was, they never knew what was going to happen. And I remember actually going to visit her this one particular day before she passed away. And who would have thought that the day I saw her was the day she was going to pass away. I don't know, the whole thing was coincidence, or God knew that this is how the plan was going to go, that once I got a chance to see her, all that kind of stuff. And, I was actually outside. I remember outside the hospital sitting there and just kind of like thinking at being 21 and, scared and nervous for my grandmother. And yeah, we all go through this, and it was really, oh man, just the way things went. But like I said, she made it to 89 years old. I really felt like she could have made another year or two, but I was wrong about that. And I definitely got to say that my great-grandmother was definitely, she was a work of art. She was, a beautiful lady, young lady, beautiful older lady. She was one of the best grandmothers I've ever had. And I want to say thank you so much. And I definitely also want to say God rest on this. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Appreciate it. Thank you. To my grandmother, I love you.